McGlynn is in. I repeat, McGlynn is in. Let the fun begin. This is the Commissioner Evaluation Podcast with your host, John McGlynn.
Is that Herms?
He got them guests on the Rolodex, stopping by to talk about some Dynasty Superflex. Everybody, yo, commish is in. It's time to sit down to listen to John McGlynn. Yo, who we trading, who we fading, who we getting off the squad. Knowledge never overrated, playing for number one. And yo, McGlynn is in. It's time to let the fun begin. It's the Commissioner Evaluation Podcast with John McGlynn.
Hey, welcome to the Commissioner Evaluation Show. I am John McGlynn. You can find me on X at John McGlynn 75. Thank you, Charles Herrmann AKA Herms NFL, for the for the intro song, and thank you, David Chavez, Sports by David at SBD Tweets on X, for the intro graphics. Happy New Year, everyone! How did your 2023 fantasy football season go? How refreshing is it not set waiver wire ads again? Is it not setting lineups sad or fantastic for you? We'll talk about that today. Today, we'll talk to a couple of my league mates of my McGlynn's home leagues that won the ship. One of them, a repeat champ. So let's get to the show.
Hey, I want to bring up a bone of contention here. Aren't I a repeat champ too?
Which one did you win last year?
The same league you won last year. We split it.
Oh, shit, that's right. Okay, we got two repeat champs on there. I forgot about that. All right, so we got two repeat champs. This works out better. Last year, the Damar Hamlin, that's right. Me and you split a league, and me and Joel split a league. That's right.
Right.
I had a few friends over to watch the Cowboys game. Had a nice New Year's Eve with my family and friends. New Year's Day was all good. Watched football with my son Steven, Johnny, my daughters Maggie and Katie, and my wife watched girl drama shows in the other room. But whatever, it is what it is. That's what chicks do. But there was a fellow Crusader from Brother Rice named Trey Pierce on Michigan's line, as well as the Michigan quarterback J.J. McCarthy was the Michigan quarterback was from. Oh God, I should have wrote that down. He's from what's it? Not Naperville, but I'll think of it when I say it. But
Chicago?
Yeah, he's from what's the one that's in LaGrange, that Catholic school in LaGrange.
Lions.
They won it the last couple of years. It starts with an N.
It's not
Nazareth. He's from Nazareth.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but we had something to root for. We had kids at he's right around my son Johnny's age. He plays for Nazareth. So we're rooting for him. We're rooting for Michigan to win the national championship. But so let's get to our commissioner evaluation show for these two newbies. Sean, we had Queen's Cobra's Christmas drink last week with all our boys we've known since first grade. But it was nice to get together. Instead of just fantasy football, we got to talk about life and see each other again. What else going on with work, family, all that kind of stuff?
It was great catching up with all those guys. I haven't seen them in a while. Everybody looks like they're doing good.
Yes. Wendy, thanks for checking in. Happy New Year, John. Hello, everyone. Thanks for checking in, Wendy. Much appreciated. Yeah, it was nice. We had Buddha, Brian, you know a couple guys from our league, Buddha, Roach, Tim Lennon, Tony Amato, Brian, or who was it? About 8 or 9 of us got together, kind of guys we've known since first grade, kindergarten, get together just kind of once a year. We've known each other our whole life. Might as well have a couple drinks together. Just, keep it real, keep it in person instead of, the online stuff. People move away. Some people doesn't, we're just kind of lucky to have good friends for a long time. So. Yeah,
it's amazing, especially with all our personalities.
Yeah, I know it. It's hard enough to stay in fantasy football together, let alone life together. But Sean and I have been have been league mates or partners in some fashion since the mid '90s. Sean, how much have you learned in the fantasy football world since the Fat Bug days of the Newman League?
That was our team name. John was the fat, and I was the bug because of my last name. It was. I don't know. Basically, I've learned most of my. I learned everything from you. Back in the day, it was a lot easier. That's when we had to phone the lineups in and make sure that we got it in, that the line was free before 5 minutes before the game start. If not, we had to run down the block to the commissioner's basement. But it's come a long way. You introduced Dynasty to me only 3 years ago, I think. So I'm pretty much a newbie when it comes to that. But Yeah, I think it's been about 20 or so years that we've been doing this.
It's been nothing but fun. I have more and more fun every year, and now implementing my friends more and more in these leagues, and finding out that they're in different, like Buddha. I didn't even know Blacklaw was in dynasty leagues. I didn't know Brian was in fantasy football until a couple of years ago. I didn't know
Right.
that Buddha's been in my leagues with me for a while too, so I knew about that. But Amato and Len and everybody else was in these leagues too, so it's cool having your childhood kids in these leagues.
Yeah, totally.
Now Sean and I both play a couple leagues together, and including the one where Brian Farrell won back-to-back leagues. Brian, how about you? What's going on? Work, family, life, etc. How's everything going with you, man?
Yeah, pretty good. Pretty similar type thing, actually. I've got a group of guys. We've all been friends since kindergarten. We got together a couple weeks back with all the families now. We all have kids and everything now, which is crazy, but always good to see them, like you said, in person, catch up, grab a drink or two. And I have a 3.5-year-old daughter now. She's growing like crazy. It's a whole nother job on top of the job, on top of doing all the fancy football stuff I love too. So it's great. My greatest achievement as a dad is that she loves football. Anytime football's on the TV, she always goes football and daddy football and all that. So it's great.
Cherish those moments, buddy. They go by quick.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's crazy that she's 3.5 already. It feels like yesterday she was born.
So fast.
3.5. My oldest is
that don't want anything to do with me now.
My oldest is 27. Yeah, so I did go figure. That's I remember like these guys all came to my wife's room in the hospital or put their hands on my wife's stomach and were singing the Notre Dame fight song when Stephen was born. Like that was 27 years ago. It was unbelievable how time flies, man. Now I got a 27, 22, 19, or 20 and 18. So it goes by that quick, man. But
yeah, cherish it.
Cherish it is right. Brian, what was more stressful, getting the first championship under your belt or winning 2 in a row?
Oh, definitely the second one. The first one, I had kind of started out the league in a rebuild. So it was, kind of a little bit of pressure to dig myself out from just how much of a hole I started in. But there wasn't a lot of pressure really for me to win. But, backing it up, showing it wasn't a fluke. I got a commissioner telling me I'm a second-tier team the entire season, So, winning that second one was definitely a lot more stressful.
He can get under your skin.
He has a way of getting under your skin. Yes, that commissioner's a jerk. Sean, me and you were in the league last year, and we both, I think it was one of those things where it was a DeMar Hamlin game. And, Brian, you were in the same situation with you and Vince last year. Yep. So it was me and Joe Galen and you and Vince all going for the championship. What was it? Do you think last year, like getting there, and being a championship game was stressful? Or do you think it was harder this year because you had already been a co-champ and then now you're trying for another championship game, trying to run it back? What was harder for you, doing it last year or this year was harder?
This year was much harder. My record didn't show it, but last year I sort of wasn't expected to be in the championship. But this year, as I kept winning, in my league, Brian, I was undefeated like you were up until the last week.
Yeah.
Lost 10-2 for my first loss. So with that being said, I didn't want to be knocked out of the playoffs after my bye there. So I think this year was a lot more stressful.
It's hilarious because I tease this guy, Danny Callett, all year long in one of my other leagues. Sean's in this one also. I tease this guy, and I was undefeated until the last week of the season. And I'm like, all right. And this guy, Danny Callett, beat me again. I called him like the last tier guy. His team's not built for dynasty. It's built for redraft right now because he doesn't have any picks going on. His team is kind of older, but his team kind of was impressive until like the end.
It's a lot better than we thought. Yeah.
Yeah. We all kind of said, God, this guy's team's terrible. And I made fun of him, and sure enough, and then his only comment on the whole message board was "Stay humble." Oh my God.
And Brian, if you think John was giving you a hard time, man, he was giving this guy a real hard time.
Yeah, dynasty isn't for everyone. It's me. I'm everyone. Wendy, yeah, it's fun. It just takes a couple years. I think dynasty it takes like a 2 or 3 year window to finally get adjusted to what's going on. If you're a redraft guy your whole life or a redraft girl your whole life, it's really. Because you don't know how to like gauge people's, at first I thought dynasty was a 5-year window. I'm looking at, I'm going to keep this guy on my roster forever. I'm going to keep this guy. Right. Then you realize that it's really like just a 2-year window. It's extended redraft. If you plan on having your guy happy and healthy and winning you championships more than 2 years, you really got to kind of have a really special player like a Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen or Jamar Chase. And even then, these guys, you can see they get hurt. Like Jamar Chase was kind of, one of your thorns in your side all season long. So even you have these top tier players, you're not guaranteed anything. So it's very nerve wracking sometimes. How do you guys feel now? Because now you made the championship, you had nerve wracking setting lineups all week. Sean, we'll start with you. How does it feel to not have to set a lineup this week?
I'm sort of bummed. I really got into it after I started winning, and when I was like 6-0 or whatever. Then I was like, oh shit, I'm gonna lose at some point, and then that didn't happen. And I was just trying to make the right call every week, so I was enjoying that. Now I got to find like another hobby for a little while.
Brian, how about you?
Same. Yeah. I mean, especially when you're having good seasons, right? It's certainly my wife's going to be happy that I'm not going to be on the phone as much. I mean, it's Dynasty, right? It's 365. So we're still going to be wheeling and dealing, but no, definitely at least coming off the high right now, I'm definitely going to miss it at least until I do fantasy baseball. I'm a big baseball guy as well. So got a couple months here before that starts ramping up.
I'm in fantasy hockey. So I just got in. This is the first year I got into a league with my regular co-host, Justin Taylor, and he does a fantasy hockey dynasty league, which was, it's like 10 years going. And I had one for a couple years and it kind of fell apart. So I was itching to get back into one. I finally got one this year. And, I'm like, yes. So Joe, my neighbor, Joe across the street from me, Joe Castleman, he was just texting me a couple minutes ago. You want to watch the Blackhawks game? I'm like, shit, I got a show tonight. But it's a nice transition from starting like, whatever you're in, 3, 5, 7, 9, 27, 300 lineups. It's a great transition. If you're in fantasy basketball, which I'm not really a basketball guy. I grew up watching the Bulls, all 6 championships. Basketball will never be the same from what I grew up with. So I can't watch it anymore because I'm never going to see the Michael Jordan Bulls again. It just doesn't do it for me anymore. I've seen all Blackhawks championships, but they were never, they had a couple dominant seasons. They won, they lost, they won, they lost, they won again. But it wasn't like the Jordan years. I'll never see basketball anything like the Jordan years I grew up with. So it's fantasy hockey is a great buffer because now you only set one lineup. And if you never played fantasy hockey before, halftime, you only got 3 guys out of a 9-man roster even playing. There's nobody playing that day. There's only 2 teams going. So there's no stress whatsoever. You go there, you pick your favorite players, you set a lineup. It is what it is. It takes 2 seconds. But at least you're still getting on the phone, setting a lineup. It's kind of like like you're going to rehab kind of thing, for fantasy football shit,
Baseball's like the opposite of that because it's every game's every day, right? I mean, every once in a while there's a Monday off or a Thursday off, but you got full lineups. Everybody's always playing. Like you're checking that thing multiple times daily. Yeah.
Sean, you're a baseball guy, right? Did you ever play fantasy baseball?
No, I've never played fantasy hockey or baseball, and I don't know if I'd be interested. I definitely got addicted to football, but I don't know about those.
You will not be addicted to fantasy baseball because it's the worst thing ever in the history of sports. You got to check every day, 17 times a day. There's relievers, there's closers, there's it's so bad. It's like fantasy football. If you had to start like 174 people every day, it's like this is ridiculous. It's terrible.
I don't think
IDP on steroids if you're literally like swapping out defensive players and stuff.
I have my Hawks tickets for the Chelios retirement ceremony. Awesome, Wendy. That's super cool.
That is really cool.
It was a great Blackhawk for a long time. Old number 7. Absolutely.
That's great.
Yes. So let's get to the next one. Tell me about throwing in the towel to start your initial season, Brian, and then loading up process to hit your goal in a couple seasons. So I'll tell you the backstory about Brian. Like when he first got in this league, he kind of just said, hey, I'm going to go for the future. Kept a couple decent players, but for the most part, it was picks and picks and picks. And we're all like, what the hell are you doing? He had no running back. He had like one good wide receiver. He's trading for rookie wide receivers. And we're like, man, what is this guy? What's wrong with this dude, man? Who likes to lose like this? Like this. And now all of a sudden his team's a powerhouse. Walk everybody through that situation where you just kind of throw in the towel and start from scratch from.
Yeah, I'm a firm believer, anything worth doing is worth doing right? Don't half-ass it. So when we did the startup in 2019, I traded away my first 2, the first round pick, second round pick in the startup. I think I traded away like 4 and 5 too. I had my 3rd and 4th round pick, but then like my 3rd pick in the startup wasn't until like the 8th round. Traded away like a whole bunch of startup picks. I came out of that rookie draft with 6 2020 first round rookie picks. And then just kind of, yeah. And 2020 was a good draft. I came out of that draft with Joe Burrow, Tua, with CeeDee Lamb. I made a couple of trades, so I didn't make all 6 picks. But quite a few guys out of that draft became benchmark guys for me. And then like you said, I had guys who I knew I wanted to be cornerstones. But then if I had a guy who was blowing up that I didn't believe in, or I thought it was more of a fluke, wasn't going to be like a long-term cornerstone, I tried swapping them out for first 2. So the startup was 2019. I went 0-13 that year. But across 2019, 2020, well, no rookie picks 2019. So 2020, 2021, and 2022, the first 3 rookie drafts that we had, I at various points had 16 different first round picks. So I ended up trading a lot of them. Actually, I didn't make a whole bunch of picks, but that pretty much got me to, after going 0-13 in 2019 and 2-11 in 2020, I'm the repeat champ in 22 and 23. So
sweet. What was your whole strategy, Roach?
Hold on, I got a question for Brian. Are you a believer in just trading the picks for players instead of drafting players?
Yeah, I will absolutely take the proven player over the pick. And that's where, so I at one point had 7 of the 2022 first round rookie picks. Didn't make a single first round pick in the 2022 draft. I traded all those guys for players. I turned 7 2022 rookie firsts into CMC, Kyler Murray, DeAndre Swift, TJ Hawkinson, and a couple other guys as well.
I agree. That's what I would do too. And I'm trying to do it in another league currently where I have 3 number 1s and 3 seconds that I'd rather get proven players for than actually have to make the picks.
Yeah.
This is most, as you guys know, in my home leagues, waiver wires are open until after the NFL Super Bowl, 1 week after the NFL Super Bowl, but trades are 24/7, 365. That's, you guys aren't on Twitter too much, but on Twitter, there's been people saying all the time, you should leave waiver wires open all year long. People want to close trades during the playoffs. The way I see it, some of the best deals in these leagues are made during the playoffs. When you got someone by the short and curlies, and they got to win, and they're in the playoffs, man, they're handing you everything. They're giving you a first and a second for a above average player just to win the championship. Because if you win, first place prize pays for the next 8 years.
Both of us were just doing that.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That's how we both won.
That's how that's the only way to win. And what good is a first round pick right now when you're 1 game away from the championship?
Absolutely.
And you said if you win the championship, it pays for the next 8 years. That's kind of how that works.
You can't take for granted that you're going to be back there. And I love trading. To me, I mean, I love to win. Don't get me wrong, but I think it's almost more fun to be trading and wheeling and dealing, putting the team together than it is to win.
Joe Castleman jumps out here and says, "Damn, sounds like Brian likes trading more than John," which is saying a lot, saying something. LOL. So I don't think anybody likes trading more than me, but I know who doesn't like to trade. It's Joe Castleman. Yeah. He doesn't like to trade with anybody. Brian, if you were in this league with Joe Castleman, you could send him a 4th round pick, to him, and you give him Patrick Mahomes, he'd still turn it down. It doesn't matter. Like the guy he just hates trading, I think,
especially
one of those guys.
Chicago Bears players.
Unless he's got the entire Bears team. He's got command.
There you go. So he's the Conrad of the league. If you offer him a Bears player, he's all over it. Yeah.
I was surprised at what Conrad did this year with his team. That was surprising to see him.
Yeah, me too, because I was right behind him points wise to try and get in the playoffs. And he did a great job.
I think he's going to be even better next year too. He's got a lot of young guys. He's got another lottery pick. I think he'll be pretty good next year.
Joe said lies all lies.
Lies all lies.
He knows the truth.
We know the truth. We don't got it.
To the trade, I totally agree, because I feel like I'm of the opinion, and I think I maybe learned some of it from John, was I don't care about my draft picks. I'd rather have the players, because I feel like at any point you can always trade your players to get picks if that's what you want.
Yeah.
There's always somebody who's rebuilding. There's always somebody who's going for win now, and there's always 4 people in the middle. 2 of the 4 think they're on the winning side, and 2 of the 4 think, man, it's time to throw the towel in. So there's a lot of options. There's a lot of options in every league. If you're one of the top guys, man, there's no reason to have picks. If you're one of the bottom guys, you want to go after those picks. And then, like I said, the other 4 guys, they're somewhere in the middle. You could talk them into whatever you want to, or they could talk you into something else too. So everything's different, but they're all pretty much the same. There's never 12 guys going for it. There's never 12 guys completely rebuilding. So it works out for everybody. To have a trade deadline in the playoffs, really, I guess here's the other thing too, guys, is that I think a lot of people play on online leagues where they don't get to see their league opponents a lot. They don't get to talk to in person. They don't get to sit and have rookie drafts or, draft lottery, stuff like that. So if you're playing with somebody who's from England or somebody, maybe they don't have the same, continuity as maybe the home leagues do. Maybe that's, I don't know if that's too strong of a word or whatever, but it's a little bit more trusting, I think, for people who play in home leagues to, make these deals or not worry about draft picks in the future or not worry about having to pay for league fees ahead of time because you traded, 25 picks away or whatever the deal may be. Whatever. It is what it is. I think it's a nice luxury to play in home leagues, and everybody's in home leagues, and there's nothing wrong with online leagues either, but I just think the continuity is a little bit better when you're playing with a bunch of friends and really good people, so.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
Especially if you can go out drinking with them people, because depends on who can handle their liquor better. You might be able to get a nice out of something.
Yeah. So, Brian, what's the plan? Either are you going to stay the course here until the wheels fall off, or are you going to start a rebuild now, or what's the story now when you win back-to-back championships?
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely all in, especially after my team just got obliterated by injuries during the playoffs. I wasn't fully expecting to go as all in as I ended up having to do, but as old as I am in certain places, like I have McCaffrey, I have Tyreek, I have Keenan Allen, who I think all of those guys still have another good year in them, if not 2. And then guys like Hopkins. I mean, I've got Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, and CeeDee Lamb. I think that core right there alone will keep me competitive for the next 3 to 5 years, depending. And then I have other young guys, like I still have Tua, who's probably not a surefire QB1, but when you factor in the points I'm getting from all the guys I already mentioned, he's not bad. I've got other guys like Bryce Young, and I still have Swift. I have Charbonnet, Ford, a bunch of guys that I think this team at least has another year or 2 in it before I have to worry about that. And even though I traded away all my 24 and 25 picks, 2 more years gets me to 26 when I have my full picks. So hopefully it won't be an issue for me.
So you're out of 25s, Brian?
Yeah, that was so. Like I mentioned, I had all the injuries. That was the big trade I made with Vince the second week of the playoffs to get Tyreek Hill from him. I gave away pretty much I gave him. There was a lot more in it. It wasn't just the 2 firsts plus the other people.
I remember seeing it. Yeah.
But I gave him 2 firsts plus for Tyreek plus. Yeah.
That worked out crazy because he was trying to sell Tyreek for a couple of weeks before that. Like, hey, just getting feelers. And then when he got knocked out in the first round, which was also a surprise, then he couldn't wait to find a taker. So it worked out. Yeah,
and then I lose Keenan Allen and Jamar Chase, and all of a sudden it's like, oh shit, I need another wide receiver here. So yeah.
God, when you stepped away before we came on, Brian and I were talking, and both of our teams, there were a lot of players that overlapped where he lost Keenan Allen, Mostert, Jamar Chase in the playoffs. I had them all on my team as well. And like what Brian did, I was hoping that I could ride out my team because aside from them, I have Derrick Henry and Stroud, Nico Collins, Andrews, who also got hurt, Cooper Kupp, and I forget who else. But I was hoping that I could keep it intact for next year and keep my 2025s. But like same thing that happened with Brian, I had to start making some deals. So I gave up at least my 2025 first. I think I still have my second, but so it's not as bare, but it's close.
When does the win at all cost feeling kick in? Like what point in the season were you like, hey man, this is it. Like I don't care about draft picks anymore. I got something special here. It's just kind of working. Like, where did you feel that in this season? Like, especially like already winning once, coming back again, ready to go. Like, I don't care. I want to win now. What do I do? What do I do? Like, how do I make this happen?
I mean, I guess from the get-go, I was all in because of my player's age. Like I said, I had Derrick Henry, I got Keenan Allen, I got Cooper Kupp, Mostert, like all those guys maybe have a year left. I don't even know. I was trying to get whatever I could out of them this year. But it really kicked in when we had the similar injuries, as Brian mentioned, in the playoffs when I started dropping guys like Jamar Chase and other guys. And that's when I was like, all right, and I traded Chase for CeeDee Lamb, which really helped me out the last 2 weeks of the playoffs.
That was Kyle August was in our garage last week, and he's a huge Cowboys fan. He was just the other day, him and Nick and a couple other guys.
That after he traded him to me, I had no idea.
Oh yeah, he's a human. He came to my house last week and he had Cowboys hat on, Cowboys shirt on, the jersey, the whole thing. And I'm like, dude, how did you trade away CeeDee Lamb? He goes, well, for Jamar Chase. I mean, it had to be done. He goes, I wasn't winning anything. I like CeeDee Lamb, but I think Jamar Chase is just a little bit of a more special talent. So I kind of feel like it was a little bit of an upgrade. And I'm like, all right, well, I mean, I get it. To me, they're all like almost in the same tier now. I think if you took anyone, like Brian, you were saying before, all three of those guys, you can, if you shook them around and one fell out, that would be the number one, number two, and number three. It wouldn't matter. They're all in the same tier as I'm concerned. Especially with Dak using him as primary target almost every target. Those guys are all getting a majority of the looks on offense. So, and good offenses with great quarterbacks. So it is what it is.
Believe me, I didn't want to trade Chase. I had offers before that, but once he got hurt, I felt like I had to. And I know it might have been a step down to CeeDee Lamb, but I don't even care because he won the championship. He did. He's basically right there with him. And it's funny you mentioned Dak. I was trying to get Dak from him all week. I was even offering, I think, Stroud. No, I don't think I offered Stroud, but I was offering who's Goff. I was offering Goff and maybe like a first or Goff and a second. I thought the connection with Dak and CeeDee Lamb would be nice for those two games.
I think Kyle would just have a heart attack if he traded away both of his Cowboy starters on the same team. What was your favorite trade of the year? Sean, we'll start with you. Do you remember your favorite trade of the year that you did? Like it was like, yes, like the one that maybe hit the most, that felt like you made a biggest difference on your team.
I think, obviously the CeeDee Lamb was huge for me because it won me the championship basically, or won me the week before to get me in the championship. But earlier in the season, I got Nico Collins, and I can't remember what I traded for him, but it was sort of before he exploded. And later in the season, I got Stroud. So having that connection was really nice.
That's a nice stack.
Brian, how about you?
Yeah, they're young.
Yeah, I didn't. So it's funny. I did a lot of my trades towards the end of the season, and they were more as I had lost like 6 or 7 of my starters trying to stay competitive. So I don't know if I made any of my favorite trades overall that I've done in the league this year, but probably the one that just worked out the best for me was I traded for Will Levis like right before he took over as a starter. I gave up a second to get him. And then after he blew up after his first 2 good games, I then flipped him with a couple other pieces for a first, a second, and Scary Terry. So pretty good return on investment there. And then because I had those extra first and seconds and an extra receiver and Terry, again, I've already listed the majority of my other receivers pretty loaded there. That was a big part of what I was able to then flip for Tyreek Hill when I needed him in the playoffs after all my injuries.
So Brian, we'll start with you. How do you see yourself going forward with like no draft picks for the next couple of years, kind of thing like that? I know you got a good core of a team, but if injuries start happening again, what do you do?
Well, that'll definitely be, kind of play case by case, right? I was starting to look ahead to things. I look at a lot of things, but just because it was worked out well for me, I saw Matthew Berry's way too early 2024 for next year, and his top 5 guys are McCaffrey, Tyreek, Jefferson, Chase, and Lamb, and I'm like, hey, I have all those guys, right? So hopefully next year should be pretty well, but yeah, that's the kind of thing. If I get just massacred by injuries like I did towards the end of the year again, if it's more towards the beginning of the year, maybe I try to flip some of those older guys like Keenan, like Hopkins, like Tyreek, like maybe McCaffrey, depending on how things are going, and just keep the ship going. But yeah, like I said, with that core I have of those top 3 receivers and then some of the other young pieces I have, I think I'll be all right the next 2 years until I have picks again. But major knock on wood for that.
And
Sean, how about yourself?
Brian, I think we probably are in the same boat, but since we've won, or at least I split last year's and then won this one, I feel like the pressure's off. So like we can just enjoy our team and we don't have to worry about the future as much. We already got those in our pocket and all the league fees paid for. I don't know what I would do if the wheels fell off, because I'm in a similar boat to Brian where I don't have many picks for the 20. I don't have any for the 24 and just a few, I think, for the 25 year. So I guess it would all depend, like he said, case by case on who, dropped, because I got a mix of really old guys and then some young and up and coming guys. So I think it'd be a fun goal this year to really hit the waiver wire and try and find this year's Puka or Kyron Williams, those big steals to add to my team to get the cheap guy that pans out.
Yeah, this is the league that Sean has in. It's in 3-1-2 Dynasty, which he had just won. So he's got Stroud, Derrick Henry, Brian Robinson, CeeDee Lamb, Cooper Kupp, Nico Collins, who I tried trading for 2 weeks before he finally blew up. I'm like, hey, what? And he didn't trade him, and I'm like, God, now it's over. Once these guys have these monster weeks, you're done. You're never getting them.
Yeah.
He's got Isaiah Likely, Evan Ingram, who had a surprisingly well year this year. Yeah. Brandon Cooks, I traded Sean a fourth for Brandon Cooks earlier in the season. Then he's got Jared Goff, and then his backups: Mason Rudolph, Jacoby Brissett, it's Jarrett Stidham, Jameis Winston, who he just dingles over my face every time Winston starts. And everybody knows I love Jameis Winston.
Worst comes to worst, Roach, you can always flip Winston to John. He'll give you something.
Yeah.
Mitch Trubisky, Kenny Pickett. I don't know what's going to happen with Kenny Pickett next year. I don't know what they're going to do, but Jake Browning. I was listening to a podcast a couple weeks ago, and the guy had said that the new cool thing now is to have 10 or 12 quarterbacks in your team, have more quarterbacks than running backs, which I'm kind of scratching my head on that. But that's kind of the new thing now, is to have a lot more quarterbacks, because then when they have a good week, you trade them away to somebody else who needs a quarterback, and I'm like, well, how do you keep 12 quarterbacks in your team? You keep trading them away every time they have a good week. But that seems to be the new cool thing now, is to have more running backs, and then quarterbacks, and then only have 6 quality wide receivers, and then 2 tight ends, and that's on a 30-man roster. That's pretty much the new build.
If you got the wide receivers Brian's got, you could definitely.
Yeah, exactly. And then, Sean, you got Najee Harris in the backup role, Amari DeMarcado, Samaje Perine, Raheem Mostert, Rashad Penny, Deonta Foreman, and Noah Brown, Josh Palmer. Josh Palmer, nice future there, hopefully. Keenan Allen.
Starter or possible number 1 soon.
Yeah. Darnell Mooney, Darius Davis, Tanner Hudson, Gerald Everett, and he fills up his IR like I do every time. I don't make sure that I don't have any spots. He's got, even if you never know what these guys are going to pop out. So he's got Emmanuel Wilson, Mark Andrews.
Cut him.
Yeah. Don't cut him. Yeah. Put him on IR if you can. Emmanuel Wilson, he's got Mark Andrews on the IR, which, that kind of sucked. Russell Gage, Ashton Julian, he's one of the favorites of the player profile site. Salvin Ahmed and Hassan Haskins, which, he's still on IR, even though he's healthy, but they just, he's on IR for whatever reason. They keep him on there for away from the team. But that was a really good combination of players for your team, Sean. And then just to go over Brian's team here, because it's here we go, Brian. Here's your team. So you got 2 as your quarterback, and then McCaffrey and Swift are your running backs. Justin Jefferson, Tyreek Hill, and CeeDee Lamb are your wide receivers. Evan Ingram, Dallas Goedert, Chuba Hubbard, and Gardner Minshew was your final roster for the last week, or what it is right now. But the rest of his players on his bench. He's got Russell Wilson. He may go find a new home next year. Sam Darnold, which I love as Sam Darnold. He might even start this week. He's still young. He's still 25 years old. He might have a chance to show somewhere else. Malik Willis, Bryce Young quarterback. And then Cedric Brooks, Raheem Mostert, Dalvin Cook, who might be doing a different team. It sounds like they cut him today. Deonta Foreman, Miles Sanders, Elijah Mitchell, always a great backup right there. Anybody on the San Francisco backfield? Jerome Ford, one of my favorites coming out of the draft. A lot of people didn't like him. I love Jerome Ford. Zach Charbonnet, I like Zach Charbonnet. A lot of these guys I try trading for you every week, and I never get. DeAndre Hopkins, Keenan Allen, those are the older studs right there. Jerry Jeudy had a good week last week. Jamar Chase, obviously, you don't have to say anything about Jamar Chase. John Mechie. I expect John Mechie at some point in time to have a decent season somewhere because he was a highly touted prospect coming out, and then he had that cancer. He had to sit a whole year. Didn't really make it up this year, but
Hunter Henry or this year.
Yeah, I thought this year too, but they had a lot of players kind of stepped up in Houston's wide receiver core, so it was nice to see all these young players picking up. Hunter Henry, Mike Gesicki, Noah Fant, Bryce Ford Wheaton, and who the hell is Quentin Tarantino over here? Who's this guy?
He's a backup tight end there in Houston. He's second year in the league, I think. He's more of a blocking tight end, but again, like you saw, obviously Brevin Jordan was another guy. I actually traded Brevin Jordan for Gardner Minshew when I started having some QB issues.
Good trade. Great year.
Yeah, that was it helped because, like you saw, I had to play Minshew in the final because all of a sudden Russ apparently doesn't have a starting job with Denver anymore. But you start looking, and Stroud looks really good. Anytime you can tie a player, like you said, I can just stash him on the IR, and he's maybe a Schultz injury away from getting more playing time when he's off the IR next year, catching passes from Stroud. Who knows?
So Sean, we'll start with you. What do you think your next moves are? I mean, obviously you just can't sit back in Dynasty and not make any moves, something like that. What do you think that you need to do as your team to solidify? You need more. You get a couple more wide receivers. You need a stronger tight end. You need guys to stay healthy, somebody to come back in time, upgrade your quarterback position. Like, what do you think you need to do to your team to make it where you want to be?
So, Brian, you're not aware of the trade I made, but who I traded my first round pick in 25 for the last week for the championship was Ingram and Najee Harris. I'm the biggest Najee fan, and he ended up exploding, and I didn't play him. He was on my bench. So basically before that trade, I would have said, John, that I need more younger running backs because I only got B-Rob as my younger running back with Mostert and Derrick Henry. I don't know how Derrick Henry is going to be next year. Mostert might be able to run it back, but of course he's not going to get 21 touchdowns or whatever he got this year. So I would say definitely the weakest I think I am is in my running back room because my receivers, I got a good mix of old and young, same with my quarterbacks, and my tight end, I've got Andrews, and because of that late trade in the playoffs, I've got Ingram too. So feel pretty good about that combo.
Yeah, and Ingram's going to be on the team for the next couple of years. He signed a 3-year contract, I believe, so you should be good there for a minute. As being one of the favorite targets of Trevor Lawrence when he's healthy. But being short at running back is probably the best place to be short at because it's the easiest position to refill, as we saw this year. I mean, I don't know how many running backs went down, how many guys just took jobs over. It was crazy. And then you see towards the end of the year now, guys like Tony Pollard just kind of fell off the face of the earth, and they were, the cat's pajamas when the season started. Even Austin Eckler, look what he did last year compared to this year, and then his contract's up now this year. So.
And John, that's my goal. Actually, I care about every other position more than I do running backs for that reason.
Yeah, I'd never been I guess when I started out and I was in redraft, it was more of a running back thing because it's more of a horse race. But in Dynasty, you realize real fast that running backs are just, they're just placeholders until the next man up, which usually the next man up comes up sooner than later. So handcuffs.
I feel like that position has changed in the last couple of years. I would say about 4 or 5 years ago, it was more just one stud per team. And now there's a lot more like 2 running back rooms or 3 running back rooms. So it's sort of hard to depend on, just one stud each.
Yeah, it's almost like teams are not afraid to tip their hand anymore because they have an early down back, a goal line back, a pass catching back, a pass blocking back. And there's not so much one man does everything anymore. There's no more Walter Paytons in the league that have 3 down skill set. There's no more, I'm dating myself here because a lot of people don't even, they know who Walter Payton is, but they probably never saw him play. But there's not too many players out there anymore that could do everything well. And on top of that, it's all about money. They don't want to pay one guy $15 million or $19 million or $25 million, whatever it may be for its running back. And then that's your entire franchise because he's a 3-down player. But as soon as he gets hurt, you see with Saquon Barkley and guys like that come in, the Giants, they're probably going to let him go this year. You never know what's going to happen. They're rebuilding. There's no reason to have a running back like Saquon on a team like on the Giants that's just falling apart. So, and he signed that 1-year deal. He might have said, "Hey, man, don't put anything on my clause. I'm not coming back. You can't franchise tag me again. We'll do whatever. I'll play this year, but that's it." And the Giants are not the same without him on the field. He's still an electric player. I'll trade for him anywhere, but the teams just don't want to have that. You'd like to have, $2 million, $2 million, $2 million, $2 million, even less than that in most cases on these backup roles for players. And just kind of, hey, he got hurt. Okay, you're making $750,000 league minimum. You're going to play the first. You're going to play the early down back too. It's just so easy to pick up running backs now than it is. I mean, guys like Benjamin were like a thing for a couple of weeks. Those guys you can pick up for literally less than $1 on a waiver wire midway through the season because they're sitting out there. Amari DeMarcado's.
Jeffrey's an anomaly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, as I said, I started playing fantasy football, I think in like 2005 when I was in high school. I think it was like 14, 15 at the time. And I always remember my very first, it was obviously a redraft league. Very first league I ever played in, I had Sean Alexander and LaDainian Tomlinson as my running backs, and that was like the year both of them had their greatest years. Like I think that was LT's 31 touchdown year or whatever. I was like, fantasy football is easy. Just get 2 stud running backs, and that's all you got to do. Yeah, it's changed a little bit since then.
Yeah. Yeah, when I first came in, John and I were more into like stocking up on those types of running backs, and then I noticed a change, and I started changing my aspect.
Yeah, that's it has changed a lot. I got lucky. I started looking at these players, and you never know. I mean, people make fun of me all the time for it because I send these terrible trades out, which I don't think are terrible, but that's just me.
That's what's even funnier.
I send out I got Trey McBride in like 3 leagues this year because I send out I find out who people like.
And I was so pissed at you for that in our league. I wanted McBride. I was trying to get him too, and you took him right before I got him.
I don't know
who you got him, but you got him. I was pissed.
I got traded a 4th-round pick and something like another.
Parham. You traded
Parham.
Yeah,
for Trey McBride. In our league, I traded for Ash. I wasn't Ashton Doolin. Who's the other receiver on the Colts?
Alec Pierce.
Yeah, Alec Pierce to Justin Taylor because he's a huge Alec Pierce fan. And Alec Pierce is probably going to be pretty good next year with a quarterback that could throw deep.
Big arm,
but he traded Alec Pierce for Trey McBride right straight up, and kind of something like that, or a 3rd and Alec Pierce for McBride and a 4th or something, an early 4th and a late 3rd transaction right next to each other. But I was like, yes.
Yeah.
So yeah. This guy, his trades are terrible. He's still lying. Yeah, Joe's going to be on here one day, and I'm going to make fun of him the whole time. But he's got a lot more to make fun of me about because, he tells the truth and I don't.
You got to have Joe on here and ask him those questions about because he usually drafts pretty well, and that's why he doesn't do any trades. But if he has to trade, I wonder how that's going to work out. I haven't seen it from him.
I tell you what, he's one of those guys. He sits back and he drafts and he just, but you got to give it to him. The guy drafts pretty well. So
no, definitely much more patient.
I came close this year. He did. I thought Joe was going to be in the championship for sure this year. I mean, yeah.
Came on strong. He was making me nervous.
So I've been in leagues with Joe for, I don't know, probably 10 years now, maybe something like that, whatever. And Joe's never won a championship. So we had this neighborhood league draft.
Oh, no way, really?
He's never. He's always coming like 2nd place or 3rd place or something like that. We had this neighborhood draft where nobody even said there was 14 teams, super flex, like all the kids and the couple of neighbors who don't even check there's 4 people on IR in their lineup, So Joe's team got better because he kept hitting the waiver wire and paying attention. Nobody else did. The waiver wire was terrible. With 14 teams, like 25-man roster.
I'm in a 14-team league. Yeah, it's nothing. Yeah.
There was nothing, even the auto draft. So I picked up right from the get-go. I got Kyler Murray and Jonathan Taylor because they were on IR when the season started. So it was fun because Joe kept hitting the waiver wire. And he ended up beating me last week. And I'm like, son of a bitch. And then he beat my son Johnny in the championship. Joe was up by like 54 points or something like that going into the Sunday night game. And then Johnny had come back all the way to the very last. I think Joe won by like 0.3 points. Because they pulled out Jordan Love in like the last 2 minutes of the game. He's like, no. But Joe won his first championship, but it didn't pay anything, and the league sucks. So too bad, Joe.
That's brutal.
Yeah. So congrats from Fantrax. Congrats, Brian. Huge Roach fan. Let's go. Nick Script says, good job, both of you guys.
That's Nick.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks, buddy.
Yeah, buddy. So yeah, these guys did definitely. Roach, I'm super happy at how far you've come along since redraft leagues. Not that I'm anything to say to gauge your progress in any kind of fantasy football space, but you've come an absolutely long way. Especially you had a little bit of a layoff because of my brother Andy being a jerk. But playing with my brothers is a whole different story. That they kind of ruin fantasy football for anyone. So.
Well, I appreciate it. It's been a lot of help from you. Brian, my first fantasy league, we're still in the league. It was only, I think, 2-3 years ago is when I got into Dynasty. And I did Mahomes and Justin Jefferson. And that was before anybody sort of knew who Justin Jefferson was. So I got in the middle of the draft. By the end of the season, I had traded Mahomes and Jefferson. And I still regret it to this day. That's the league where I have all the first round picks, and I'm like totally rebuilding right now.
I still that's absolutely brutal. I was gonna say in this league, and it was the first year, so you weren't here yet. John probably knows where I'm going. I think it's the worst trade I've ever seen in fantasy, and I made it. This was my first Superflex league, so I was still kind of getting used to values with Superflex and stuff. It was after we had done the startup draft again back 2019. I was big on Rashad Penny. I thought he was going to break out and be huge for Seattle. And Josh Allen had just had an absolutely awful rookie season in Buffalo. So I traded away Josh Allen for Rashad Penny.
Oh, straight up. Damn. Yeah.
Yeah, there were a couple other little pieces on each side, but it was essentially Josh Allen for Rashad Penny before the 2019 season started. That one didn't age too well for me.
Yeah, I feel you.
We all had those trades that you traded. It turns out like, oh my God, I would still be cashing in championships year after year if I didn't trade away blank for blank. That's just the way it is. That's the fun thing about Dynasty. And redraft, you can kind of like, let it go, reshuffle the deck and start again from scratch. But in Dynasty, you just watch your opponents just stick it up your ass with because they got your guy that you trade away for peanuts. So.
But I guess that's a learning experience, all three of us, I think, are pretty massive traders in our league. So, at least we can come out of it where some other guys that don't trade, if they make that deal, that's pretty rough.
Yeah.
Yeah. Joe says, I love Penny
Thanks,
too. I don't blame you.
That.
I love Penny. Got him in 2 leagues.
Yeah. He's still in a lot of rosters too. Yeah. Same thing.
I think you still have Penny in the Brainiacs league, right? In our league.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the thing. I always say all the time, I don't want to win with a team I absolutely hate, guys I can't stand or don't like. I want to win with guys who are good and I'm fans of. I was a Dolphins fan my whole life. I don't like Tua. I'm not a big Tua fan. I'm coming around to Justin Fields now. I can't stand Tua. I think he's terrible. The last couple weeks have shown how bad he is because when a team is up, when they start winning, like they just know all these trick plays and gimmick plays to run the score up. As soon as they fall behind and defenses kind of sharpen their teeth a little bit and blitz Tua, turns into I don't know what he tried. But if you ever notice, as soon as they fall behind, that team is done for. Like they start crying in the corner like a bunch of babies. When they're ahead, they just keep rubbing it in. Look at us. Look how good we are. I don't like them. I don't like Tua is not the quarterback. The guy, if you watch the games, he throws 5 interceptions a game. Hits defenders right in the face, right in the hands. He is not a good quarterback. When things are going well, the team works great, but man, they are not a come from behind team. I'm actually, it's going to be tough because I raised my kids to be Dolphins fans, and now they're both huge Dolphins fans. And this week it's the Bills versus the Dolphins. And John Hickey, I'm going to go out with him. I'm going to invite a couple other people out, like some random place, bring my kids out with me and watch this Dolphins versus Bills game. And it's going to be a nightmare because there's either rabid Bills fans or rabid Dolphins fans going to be on both sides of me. And I'm kind of converting into a Josh Allen. You see behind me, I have my favorite players of all time.
About that.
The only reason that I have been a Dolphins fan my whole life is because number 13, Dan Marino, He's gone. I don't like the management. I don't like the chemistry of the team right now. I mean, I like
the coach. The coach is good though.
The coach is good. It's just Tua just rubbed me the wrong. I just wish they had a.
I mean, you could also say the same thing. His players. I mean, it's not Mahomes. It's not the Chiefs. They don't have 40 drops this year or whatever. But last week, Tyreek dropped one in the end zone, hit him straight in the hands, wide open on that slant. That was Tyreek's 9th or 10th drop of the year. I mean, yeah, Tua's had a couple defenders drop interceptions, but that's why they play defense, right? Because they can't catch. That's the old adage. I mean, all QBs could say that. I don't think Tua's ever going to be a top 5 QB, but the guy's got multiple games where he's put up over 50, almost 60 points. And yeah, a lot of that's Tyreek and Waddle, but at the very least, Waddle's not going anywhere with McDaniel there. I'm sure they'll keep building similar type offenses. I mean, Mostert and Wilson were, not necessarily nobodies before Miami. They both kind of had some, good seasons, good stretches here and there before that, but that's just kind of the way they put that team together there. I think, I don't think you could necessarily put Tua on, the Bears or the Panthers and he'd look like a good QB. But in that situation, keep building a team around him like that. I think he's a top 10, 12, maybe 15 QB for however long.
he had such good stats earlier on because this year he improved on taking the 3-step drops and just launching the ball and hitting Tyreek downhill and getting 85-yard touchdowns or things like that, or little slants to Waddle across the middle when it was zone coverage. He hit in the zone and Waddle would make things happen. There was nothing that Tua was seeing this awesome, reading defenses or making things happen. He just has these elite talents around him that made him look special. And I mean, now you can see with a hampered Tyreek Hill and the Jamar Chase is getting beat up and the running game getting stuffed because they don't have to triple cover Tyreek Hill now. You can kind of see like what's going on with when it's the true colors of a quarterback. Look at, I like the Bills now because I consider like Josh Allen like pretty much Dan Marino with running ability now. Like the guy's got a cannon. He's hitting guys all over the field. Again, he doesn't have much to work with. He's got Kincaid, who's been hurt half the season. Dawson Knox is more of a blocking tight end, and Stephon Diggs. He's a really good receiver, but he can't be the only guy on the team. So
yeah, but Josh Allen can have his Brett Favre moments where he could just be winging that ball to anybody. It doesn't matter what jersey they're wearing. So I'm surprised you're so down on Tua.
Yeah, it is what it is. But anyway, where's the mute button at?
I feel like they're very similar, especially for fantasy. Like either one of them can blow up.
Yeah, no, I 100%. I get the. I know Josh Allen has his flaws too. I get that 100%, and I do see that. But as much as he's improved since day one to where he is right now, I mean, it's. I mean, he'd never start. Dan Marino threw 48 touchdowns and 5,000 yards in his second season. It's pretty much a rookie season as far as that goes because he didn't play much his first season. But man, he was electric from the get-go. So Josh Allen to where he's at now, and Josh Allen can learn how to not get hurt so much or not run the ball so much, slide a little bit more instead of running. But that's who he is. He may not be here for a long time, but he's here for a good time, and I'm enjoying it. I love Josh. I love watching the good quarterback. So, all right. So, who are some targets like buys and sells you guys have for next year for your team? Like, if there's a name or like a couple names or some early guy or some young players that are kind of under the radar right now, anybody that you could think of right now, Brian? We'll start with you. Kind of just some dudes who you may think of like, man, I'd love to have this guy on my team, or I mean, we're all in the same league together, so this is kind of one of those like.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Well, so the first name I'll throw out because it kind of ties into exactly what we were just talking about. I already have him on my team, so you guys can't try to undermine me here. But Noah Fant, I think we've talked to. I went to Iowa. I'm a huge Iowa fan, so I got a little bit of a homerism going here. But I mean, everybody, it's not a hot take to say Iowa tight ends are tearing up the NFL right now, right? If you go back to that 2019 draft, obviously Hawkinson's been a beast and he's been great in the NFL, but Fant actually had the better athletic profile, not necessarily, just as a tight end, but just as an athletic freak. And you look at the guys who kind of have that, breakout late as a tight end. Fant's still just 25 and he's going to be a free agent at the end of the season. I say it ties back. If Noah Fant goes to Miami and he's the Dolphins tight end next year, you add how athletic of a freak, his 40 time was, insane too. You throw it up there with those guys. What are you raising your hand?
Mike Gesicki's the biggest freak in the world, and he couldn't do anything on that team. They only throw to two people.
You're not wrong, but yeah, I mean, but again, how how much longer. I mean, Waddle literally left. I'd love to see the stat because it sure feels like it. It feels like Waddle left every single game this year with an injury during the game and then came back later. But he's in and out. I mean, Tyreek with his ankle the last couple weeks, he's been in and out of games, and it doesn't have to be the Dolphins. It's just a good example. But I think you put Noah Fant on a team that uses the tight end and can use him what he is. I think he could definitely be somebody who breaks out.
Your Noah Fant is my Albert O and my Tommy Tremble. Those are two guys that I absolutely love. Tommy Tremble, unfortunately, is just a blocker. They don't.
Tremble's a blocker, but Albert O kind of has a similar profile.
Another guy who's just fantastic. I have no. He's not Noah fantastic, but he's really good, very athletic. He had a pretty decent college profile. Just athletic as hell. Sean, anybody you could think of that on your like below the radar kind of guys that, man, I think this guy could be a league winner in a year or two if he pans out. Anybody like that you could think of? Yeah,
I don't know if he's considered below the radar, but I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name right. Is it Tajay Spears?
Tajay, yeah.
First name. I mean, and that's partly because I have Derrick Henry, but I would like to grab him, or I like that receiver Michael Wilson on Arizona, especially if Hollywood Brown. I think his contract's up.
No more. All them guys could be moving on.
And it all depends on the draft. If they end up getting Marvin Harrison Jr. or not, then it doesn't matter. But I think Wilson's got a good chance over there in Arizona.
Yeah, I bought Michael Wilson a lot of teams also. I shouldn't say a huge Michael Wilson fan, but I'm a big Michael Wilson believer. So I like that. I like that suggestion also. I think he might even be on my team in the league you're talking about. You're not getting him, so
yeah, I think I probably already tried.
Yeah, but that's we're coming up on an hour here, guys. So I was going to kind of go through my team a little bit, but I don't know. It's one of those deals where, excuse me, I don't know. I've been sick the last couple of days. I don't know where it came from, but
if you're going to bring up your team in Bavaro League, you should give Brian a little backstory on how you were basically undefeated and, like you were sort of doing what we did where, you were going for it. You had a mix of like older guys. And then I think you lost. I think all three of us lost the same week. Our undefeated
14, the final week of the regular season.
Yes.
Yeah.
But you didn't have as much luck as we did in the playoffs, unfortunately.
No, I didn't. You know what? I'm going to just run through it real fast just because my quarterbacks are Dak Prescott, Trevor Lawrence, Sam Howell, Mason Rudolph, Ryan Tannehill. Running backs were Swift, Mixon, Derrick Henry, Ramondre Stevenson, who got hurt, Jerome Ford, who I love, Gibson, who that offense, I can't wait for him to go somewhere else next year. Kenny Gainwell is another one of my, I know he's never going to be like a 3-down stud back, but he's going to flower into a just receiving in a good, change of pace back somewhere. Michael Carter, the same way. I love him. Israel Abanikanda, I was braving on him since the draft. People say he can't catch, and I think he's going to get a chance next year. Bam Knight, Simon Knight, another one of my under the radar guys. Julius Chestnut, he's as big as Derrick Henry, and he's a stud, but he's hurt all the time. Zach Evans, I think he may be a lost cause, but I'll keep him for one more year. Running backs, I don't care. I'll keep a roster space for anybody that could possibly happen. Eno Benjamin, he's on my IR, so I'll keep him there until I need to make roster cuts, which are going to end up being inevitable soon. But I'm a big Eno Benjamin fan. A powerful guy, can catch the ball a little bit, but definitely under the radar. Wide receivers, CeeDee Lamb, A.J. Brown, Devontae Adams. Well, Devontae Adams, if he goes with to the Jets next year and plays with Aaron Rodgers, he could probably rekindle or really start the fire. Every team I have has DJ Moore and Chris Godwin on it, as everybody knows. Jaden Reed, Noah Brown, Marvin Mims, who did not have a good rookie season, but I still believe in him. Elijah Moore, who showed flash again this year until unfortunately he got hurt. Michael Wilson, that guy somebody else just talked about a minute ago, is on this team. Bryce Ford Wheaton, Devin Duvernay, Brandon Johnson, who I just picked up later in the season as a possible trade candidate for a playoff team for Bronco, and the Bronco who had Cortland Sutton, who got hurt, and they had a couple injuries on the team. So Jason Brownlee, another guy I just tried to pick up last minute to try and trade away. But I got Sam Laporta, TJ Hockenson, Darren Waller, Brevin Jordan, and Mike Gesicki as my tight ends here. So I had this team was pretty pretty stacked, man. I was pretty happy with this team. I was kind of feeling like the infinity belt. Like I had all the stones, all the quarterback stone, the running back stone, the wide receiver stone, the tight end stone, and then all of a sudden, bam! I get the second week of the playoffs, and Trevor Lawrence gets hurt, and Hockenson gets hurt, and everybody on my team all of a sudden has it. Derrick Henry had like 4 yards on like 18 carries. Like everybody just kind of without Stevenson on the team doing what he does, and I think it was one of those things where AJ Brown had a bad week. Devontae Adams again had like 3 points, I think, that week too. It was just a terrible, terrible situation. And of course, this week I'm out of the playoffs and going for the third place game, and I scored 307 points. And it's like, you got to be kidding me,
Yeah, I felt bad for you in that league, John, because you and I think, are the two of the biggest traders in that league, and I was rebuilding, so I wasn't giving you any of my young up and coming guys. And what you needed were guys in the mix there, and there just wasn't enough, I don't think, people to trade with there.
So a team like that, when you guys see a team like this, it looks like it's I mean, I have a third round pick. I think I have your third round pick, which is like a 302 or 303 in that league. And I don't have a first or a second, but I think I have enough talent to kind of run it back a little bit. Probably a lot of it anyway. What would you guys suggest to a team like that? What would you do if you were an owner like that? Kind of said, what would you do? Sean, what do you think I should do with that team?
I think you're good. I mean, you're right about the Infinity Stone reference. You got some stud quarterbacks, good running backs, stud receivers, and you got stud tight ends with some depth. I think you just need to do some tweaking. I don't think you need to do anything major, but it all depends on, if other players move next year or some situations change. But I think you're looking good.
Yeah, I'm going to try and trade some people during the draft. Maybe some guys who are okay. Maybe try to get some draft picks, some players who I have hunches about, maybe in the second and third round, maybe even later in the draft, if I can make, it's a third and a fourth round pick for somebody that I don't really believe in, that somebody else maybe believes in or has, wants them on their team, or is a Phillies fan or a Cowboys fan or whatever, who just wants those guys, try and try and scratch and claw and do everything I possibly can to survive. That's what Brian, what do you think about that team?
I agree. I think the big thing is going to be your running backs. I think basically all those guys are question marks. Is Swift, what does his role look like with Philly next year, if he's even with Philly next year, right? Same thing with Mixon, Derrick Henry, all those guys, they could be your RB1s again next year, or, they could be, sitting as the 1B on a committee on a different team next year. Stevenson, you never know with who knows what the Patriots will look like next year. Jerome Ford, I'm actually higher on than most people. I think he's still going to have a very big role next year. I think Chubb comes back, but you look at any running back outside of Adrian Peterson coming back from an injury like that, it takes them the full season to come back. We've seen it with guys even younger than Chubb with a lot less miles the past couple of years, that when they try to come back, if they're not re-injuring themselves, they just don't look the same. So Gibson, again, where's he going to be next year? I think that's the big question mark for this team, is what are your running backs going to look like going into next season? And I think that'll kind of give you a good idea what the season will look like. But just with the rest of the team, again, the depth and the talent you have at QB, wide receiver, and tight end, you should absolutely be able to run this team back next year.
Yeah, unfortunately, that all four sides of the base of my house, 3 of the 4 are pretty stacked, and I got that running back situation. That's, if that collapses, I'm in big trouble, because that's there are a lot of older guys too, like the last year of contract. New coaches coming in, new team possibly, end of contract, and it's going to be like, man, if those guys don't pan out, I'm going to have to just kind of get rid of everything, because a lot of my receivers are not young bucks either. It's one of those things where I'm going to have to make a lot of moves I don't want to make this team, play. And I'll have to rebuild. And I found out lately that rebuilding is actually pretty fun, man. I was never a rebuild guy. I was always kind of a win now, win now, win now. But Brian, it must have been awesome the last couple of years, kind of rebuilding this team from scratch and being where they're at right now.
It's fun, yeah. When you don't, it kind of, again, you talked about the pressure. Was there more pressure to win the first one? There's no pressure when you're rebuilding. Nobody cares. You don't have to worry about roster construction. You don't have to worry about winning. You can make trades that look ridiculous, and then some of them. No one wants to hear John roster bait. But yeah, I mean, you can make trades where you're giving up. I made trades, I think, where I was giving up like 7 or 8 players and picks combined for like one guy. And then, I'm picking up 6, 7 more players off the waiver wire just to have 25. But you can't do that when you're competing, so it's a lot of fun to especially for somebody who likes trading like we all do. Now, if you're not a big trader, maybe you're just sitting there, your team's never going to change. But if you like trading, rebuilding's a lot of fun.
Joe says no one wants to hear John roster bait. Why did you talk him into this?
And going back to what you were saying about your running backs, John, I mean, I think that's a good problem to have, or at least give you something to work on. Like, I think you were being hard on your receivers. You got CeeDee Lamb, and some of the other guys are maybe mid-20s or getting around 27, but they're not that old. Having that running back challenge, at least you got something to work on, because you have idle hands, and you'd be screwing up your team if you didn't have something to fix.
Yeah, it's going to be a challenge anyway. It's going to be fun, but I just don't want, the injuries could happen to young kids, could happen to older guys. And I used to be a guy, as soon as receiver hits 26, 27, maybe 28, I'm out. But I'm starting to be in on guys like 30-year-old, 31-year-old Devontae Adams, and guys like not like Cooper Kupp, I guess. Like I can kind of see him going downhill a little bit now. But
I mean, you've been shopping Godwin in our league all year long. I don't know how many offers you sent me trying to dump Godwin off on me.
All three. I'm in with him, Brian. He's doing the same thing.
I think that's going to be a huge mistake, because I think he may. I'm not sure if Mayfield is going to come back next year, or Godwin just signed a 4-year contract, so he's not going anywhere for a couple years. But if Mayfield comes back,
yep, Evans could be gone. So.
Evans could be gone. Yeah, so I mean, he could be, and it's if they bring in you some, and they have a couple young, fast guys for the outside. If they can keep Godwin at the slot and not get killed, I mean, he could be something. He's only 27. Yeah. And I'm keeping guys till 29, 30, 31 now. I don't really care. I'm not going to just try and get rid of guys because I'm afraid of their age anymore. Those days have gone. I've learned from my mistakes, trading with Paul, and getting rid of Stephon Diggs at 27, and getting rid of Joe Mixon at 25, because I thought maybe he was going to be too old, and trading him for peanuts on the dollar because of it. Like, no, I'm going to keep my guys now for a while and see how it goes until I absolutely have to. And I realize the ship is sinking and all the rats are jumping off, then it's time to sell. But until then, I'm going down with the ship now, So, all right. Well, guys, thanks for joining on thanks for jumping on the commission evaluation show this week. I really appreciate it. It's nice to have some guys on here that I can laugh with, and, laugh about Joe's comments of, how bad I am and how bad I roster bait. But I love roster baiting my own team, and I think everybody loves to do that. But
does that, yeah.
So where can everybody, Sean, where can everybody find you at? You do anything on like Instagram or Twitter or anything like that? Any kind of anything, or just kind of just enjoy, doing nothing wrong with just enjoying fans football either, man. Like, tell me about yourself, like where everybody can find you at on anything, any of your social medias.
Yeah, I'm on Instagram, but I'm not giving that out. Not as social media savvy as you are. I don't even remember what my Twitter name is. Isn't it like not John McGlynn or something?
Not John McGlynn. Yes, that's correct.
Check Twitter. It's just too annoying to me. But yeah, I'm just focused on Dynasty, and that's it.
Sean's got a great job where he can travel. What do you do for a living, Sean?
I work at this art conservation company that if there's any natural disasters around the country, we get sent out to we're tied in with insurance companies, and we get sent out to rescue their artwork and antiques. So just this past year, I've been to Hawaii and Florida and like a couple other, decent states. And it's a really cool experience. We all have a running list with a map in our warehouse on all the states we've ever been to. And we're all like up in the 40s, getting close to checking them all off. So it's a pretty fun place.
Yeah, I've only been to 43 states. I think you got me beat now, Sean. For a while, I kind of had you by a couple of states, I think. And now you got me. You got Hawaii and a couple other ones under your belt.
We might actually be tied. I think I'm right around there. I really need the New England area. I need like 5 or 6 up there.
It's a great time up there. I would just go on vacation, man. It's an awesome time to see those. Awesome place. So, Brian, what about you? Where are you at? I noticed you're not a big Twitter guy either. You couldn't even find your Twitter handle. You couldn't even find your Twitter account.
No, I had a Twitter until you told me that you send the invite to my Twitter. Like, oh, okay. Yeah. So no, I'm not a big socials or anything. No Twitter, no Instagram. I have a Facebook and Snapchat, I think. But yeah. So I mostly just do this as a hobby. but not going to find me anywhere.
I'm on Twitter and nobody follows me anyway, so that's cool. It's awesome. I have a good time putting out content. Nobody likes or retweets. It's all fun. It's all fun and games. I like everybody else's stuff, so retweet my shit once in a while. But it's all good times. John McGlynn 75 on X, they call it now, on X, not Twitter anymore. And the Commissioner Evaluation a YouTube page, follow that, as well as Fantrax. Fantrax is a great site. My fantasy hockey league is on Fantrax. Have a great time every day setting my lineup. It's my favorite buffer in the world when hockey season comes around. Fantasy football is over with. So Nick is the content creator on Fantrax. He runs the content department for fantasy football for Fantrax. So, and he's has me on here as a co-worker, and so it's pretty nice, man. It's pretty nice being on Fantrax. So
I did a baseball league on Fantrax. It's a great platform.
Cool, awesome. All right, guys, thank you very much for watching, and we are out.
Thanks for having me, mate.